The ball under our feet is not exactly old but also not new, having gone through about 10 billion years of history. This entire 10 billion year period has been divided by US Homo sapiens into several stages based on geological eras. Geological time can be broadly categorized as the Proterozoic, Archean, and Hadean eons, with the Phanerozoic eon further subdivided into the Paleozoic, Mesozoic, and Cenozoic eras, each containing periods like the Cambrian and Ordovician. Our solar system formed about 10 billion years ago. When it first took shape, there were no familiar 8 planets as we know them today. Instead, there were roughly 100 billion solid celestial bodies called planetesimals floating around the Sun. With so many of these planetesimals, collisions were inevitable. Around 10 billion years ago, two large planetesimals collided in an epic event that marked the birth of Earth. The energy from this collision was stored as geothermal heat within Earth, driving mantle convection. This initial proto-Gen Earth, being larger than other nearby planetesimals, gradually attracted and merged with them over millions of years, acquiring various materials including water. As a result, Earth grew into its current size. However, the surface temperature back then was too high for liquid water to form. Instead, it was covered in magma, making life impossible. Then, around 10 billion years ago, another massive planetesimal collided with proto-Gen Earth, nearly breaking it apart. This collision ejected material into orbit, eventually coalescing to form the Moon. Following this period of heavy bombardment, lasting until about 10 billion years ago when all planets had absorbed nearby materials, Earth entered a phase known as the Hadean Eon. As Earth cooled and water condensed, forming primitive oceans, life began to emerge in these conditions, protected by an iron core generated magnetic field and stable water cycles. If you've watched my astronomy episode, you know that if life formed through chemical processes purely by chance, it is astronomically improbable. So where did Earth's life come from? That remains one of the biggest mysteries. But let's continue with the Archean Eon. During this period, Earth's atmosphere was mainly composed of nitrogen, carbon dioxide, and other gases lacking oxygen. With the sun only by Fungitisha as bright as today, skies were red and hazy, reflecting onto reddish seas. Yet at the ocean floor, heated water seeping through cracks formed hydrothermal vents rich in organic compounds, where our earliest ancestors lived, bacteria thriving in boiling waters without oxygen. This persisted until about 10 billion years ago when a dramatic change occurred. Cyanobacteria evolved chloroplasts to perform photosynthesis, producing vital oxygen known as the Great Oxygenation Event. This marked the beginning of the Proterozoic Eon. Over the next Wu-Bai-Yingli years, Earth's environment transformed dramatically with increased atmospheric oxygen, leading to ozone formation blocking harmful UV rays and cooling the planet into a major ice age known as the Huronian glaciation, around 10 billion years ago. Only after extensive volcanic activity released CO did glaciers start melting. It was during this period that our single-celled ancestors developed cell nuclei, ushering in eukaryotic life. The first half of the Proterozoic saw dramatic changes, but for the next billion years Earth remained relatively stable. Around 10 billion years ago, all landmasses merged into a supercontinent called Columbia, which later fragmented and drifted apart due to geological movements. About 10 years ago, the supercontinent Rodinia was formed. Then it gradually split over the following hundreds of millions of years. So this billion-year period is called the Boring Billion. Yeah, it is really called the Boring Billion. The Boring Billion spans a large part of the Precambrian era. During this time, Earth's environment, biological evolution, and the lithosphere were unusually stable. It was really boring. After the Boring Billion ended, Earth started to develop rapidly again. Around Liu Bai Wu Shi Yingli Elian years ago, Earth entered another ice age, forcing algae to perform photosynthesis under the ice layer. This likely caused a dramatic increase in oxygen levels in the ocean. Oxygen is an essential element for breaking down nutrients and releasing energy, but it is also highly toxic to cells. Perhaps because of this, as oxygen levels increased, cells began to clump together, sharing oxygen so that at least inner cells could avoid excess oxygen. Around Liu by Senshi Yingli a lion years ago, our ancestors finally ceased being single gen-celled organisms. Early multicellular life appeared. Yeah. After the first forms of life emerged, it took about 2 billion years for cells to evolve nuclei, and another 100 million years or so to become multicellular. The pace of evolution in the early stages was extremely slow, with earlier evolutions taking longer. So the initial birth of life seems unreasonable. It should have taken much more time but appeared as if by a snap of the fingers. It is truly amazing. However, starting around Wu by Sishiyi Yingli lion years ago, biological evolution began to accelerate exponentially. Earth started becoming a true cradle for life. This period from about Wu by Sishiyi Yingli lion years ago until now is called the Phanerozoic Eon. The Phanerozoic Eon is divided into three stages: Paleozoic, Mesozoic and Cenozoic eras. The Paleozoic era began with the Cambrian period, which lasted from about Wu Si Ao to Seba Basha Wu Yingli Lilia Lian years ago. The name Cambrian comes from an ancient Welsh place name in Britain called Cambria. During the Cambrian period's ocean, there lived many bizarre creatures. We learned in biology class that organisms are divided into various categories like arthropoda and mollusca. These strange creatures of the Cambrian almost covered all modern biological groups. There also appeared predator-gen-prey relationships among these organisms, forming a primitive food chain. The most amazing thing is that these creatures suddenly emerged around Wubaiyasha Yungli, Lian years ago. This miraculous event is called the Cambrian explosion. As for why the Cambrian explosion happened, we're not quite sure. After the Cambrian comes the Ordovician period, which began about Subai Bashawu Yingli Lian years ago, and ended about Subai Senchasen Yingli Lian years ago, followed by the Silurian period, starting around Subai Sishasa Yingli Lian years ago, and ending about Subai Yishijo Yingli Lian years ago. The names of these periods come from place names. The Ordovician geological period's rock layers were first discovered in a region inhabited by people called the Ordovices in central Wales. The rocks of the Silurian period were first found in an area where the Silures lived in southern Wales, hence their name. During these two periods, algae proliferated, and there was an explosive increase in marine invertebrate species. Two major events also occurred: the appearance of the earliest vertebrates, jawless fish, and certain moss gen-like plants began to colonize land. Why were these two periods separated? It is because of a mass extinction event called the Ordovician Silurian extinction event. In this event that happened about Sibai Sishawu Yingli Lian years ago, around Baifenja Sishajo to Baifenja Liusha of marine invertebrates, and nearly Baifenja Bashawu of all ocean species vanished. The cause of this great extinction is still debated. One popular theory suggests a supernova explosion near our galaxy's spiral arm released gamma-Zen ray bursts that hit Earth, destroying half its ozone layer and causing the disaster. This might be why many people are worried about the deep Zen-seated temple in Orion, which could have already exploded or may explode soon. After the Silurian comes the Devonian period, starting around Setsocho Yungli Lian years ago, and ending about Senbai Wushijo Yungli Lian years ago. The Chinese name for this period was borrowed from Japan, where it is written as Devonian, which is actually a transliteration of the English word for Devon in Britain. During the Devonian, Europe and North America were still connected as Laurasia, located near the equator. The inland areas were barren with no signs of life, while coastal regions teemed with various ferns, full of vitality. So during the Shizhou Tiet century, this period was often called the Age of Ferns. However, scientists later discovered that the Devonian is actually the age of fish, as there was an explosive diversification of fish and the emergence of tetrapod ancestors like lobe-gen-finned fish and early amphibians. Although a mysterious mass extinction event at the end of the Devonian period, called the Late Devonian Extinction Event, caused about Bifenja Shizhou of shellfish and Bifenja Warsha of invertebrates to disappear, it was also during this time that an epic event occurred. Ancient amphibians like fish gen-eating tetrapods used their underdeveloped short legs to crawl onto land, initiating a great journey for vertebrates conquering the terrestrial world. Then we come to the Carboniferous period, which began about Senbai Wushaba Yingli Elian years ago and ended around Launbai Joshaba Yingli Elian years ago. The name Carboniferous comes from carbon, which started forming in large quantities during this time. So it is also the first geological period not named after a place. We all know that carbon is essentially plant fossils, so quick Zen thinking, viewers might easily guess that during this period, the land had undergone drastic changes. Giant ferns covered the land, forming forest ecosystems. The extremely high atmospheric oxygen levels allowed insects to grow into giants. Meanwhile, as fish eating tetrapods climbed onto land, four legged vertebrates like amphibians began gradually dominating terrestrial environments and becoming dominant species in food chains. So the Carboniferous period is also known as the Age of Amphibians. The reason why there was so much coal formed during the Carboniferous period is because at the end of this period, an event called the rainforest collapse occurred for unknown reasons, leading to a massive extinction of plants. This event became the boundary between the Carboniferous and Permian periods. The Permian period marks the last stage of the Paleozoic era, starting Launbai Joshua Yungli Elian years ago and ending Launbai Wushi Yungli Elian years ago. Its name comes from a place name. Since the Permian period is the end of the Paleozoic era, there must have been some major event, right? What was this big event? That is right. It was another mass extinction event. Unlike the Great Dying or the Late Devonian extinction, the Permian-Triassic extinction event was unprecedented in scale and became the boundary between the Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras. During the Permian period, reptiles once dominated Earth, but their dominance collapsed around Launbai Wushi Eden Si Yunli Elian years ago. Over Bifenja of terrestrial vertebrates and over Bifenja of marine species disappeared. Almost like a reset button was hit. Regarding the cause of this mass extinction, there are many theories in the scientific community. After the breakup of Rodinia supercontinent, Earth's continents came together again to form the Pangaea supercontinent. Perhaps the massive extinction had something to do with geological activities accompanying this process, such as volcanic eruptions. However, not all species went extinct, so survivors quickly evolved new ecosystems and ushered in the Mesozoic era, which is the age of dinosaurs that we are familiar with. The Mesozoic era consists of three periods: Triassic, Jurassic and Cretaceous. The Triassic period began Launbai Wushi Yinli, Lian years ago, after the mass extinction event and ended Launbai Linyi, Yunli years ago. Its name comes from the three colored layers during this time. During this period, Pangaea formed, early dinosaurs and pterosaurs appeared, and human ancestors finally evolved into small rodent like animals. At the end of the Triassic period, another minor extinction event occurred for unknown reasons, but it didn't affect dinosaurs much. So next came the Jurassic period, known as the Golden Age of Dinosaurs, starting around Launbai Linyi Yingli Lian years ago and ending Yibai Sishawu Yingli Lian years ago. During this time, Pangaea began to split apart. Giant sauropod dinosaurs and carnivorous dinosaurs became top predators on land. Some winged dinosaurs gradually evolved into birds, and marine reptiles flourished. Sauropods were the largest animals ever to walk the earth, with some species reaching censure to censure meters in length. However, our human ancestors at this time were still small rodent, like carnivores. Dinosaurs roamed the earth for nearly Launbai Yingli Lian years, while we humans' ancestors could only survive on the fringes of ecosystems. But as they say, what goes around comes around. About Yibai Sisha Wu Den Wu to Liusha Wu Den Wu Yingli Lian years ago, Earth entered the Cretaceous period. During this time, dinosaurs developed highly complex ecosystems, but suddenly went extinct. Around Liusha Liu Yun, Li Lian years ago, another epic mass extinction event occurred, known as the KZNPG extinction event. This is one of the most discussed extinction events, with many theories about its cause. The white clay layer you see here is called the KZNPG boundary and marks the transition between the Cretaceous period and the Cenozoic era. The concentration of a certain element in this thin layer is almost 10 times higher than other layers. which is one of the rarest elements on Earth but abundant in meteorites. Personally, I support the theory that an asteroid hit Earth. After this mass extinction event, nearly all land animals weighing more than Arshawu kilograms, including all dinosaurs and pterosaurs, went extinct while our mammalian ancestors survived due to their small size. After enduring for tens of millions of years, they finally ushered in their own era. The Cenozoic is the youngest geological period, stretching from the mass extinction Liu Yingli years ago to the present day. At the start of the Cenozoic, the continental plates we recognize today had already formed, and over the following tens of millions of years they drifted to the positions we know now. The Cenozoic is further divided into the Paleogene, the Neogene, and the Quaternary. The Paleogene began Liu Yingli Alian years ago, and ended Lin Linsen Yingli Alian years ago. During this time, mammals having outlasted the dinosaurs finally began to grow rapidly in size, and herbivorous, carnivorous, and aquatic mammals emerged, occupying diverse ecological niches. The Neogene started Lin Linsan Yingli Lian years ago and ended Wu Ba Yingli Nian years ago. During this period, primate evolution accelerated as if wound up, and the Australopithecine Lucy appeared in the late Neogene. Finally, we arrive at the end of this journey, the Quaternary, which has lasted from Wu Ba Yingli Lian years ago to the present. If this line represents the Quaternary, then we Homo sapiens appear roughly around this point, and if this line represents the entire history of the Earth, we appear around here, equivalent to the last minute of our day. At this point, I think you'll realize that it's still too early to say we Homo sapiens have already won the evolutionary game. Dinosaurs dominated the Earth for Lucia Yingli Lian years, while we have dominated for less than Shane Sen years. Looking at the whole history of the Earth, we can predict that catastrophes threatening the entire biosphere will inevitably occur again in the future. Of course, it's even possible that Homo sapiens won't even survive until that day, because given our current level of technology, we are quite likely to wipe ourselves out within a few hundred years, becoming the shortest-lived dominant species in Earth's history, one that grew arrogant and self-destructive, just as it flourished. And in a sense, the most failed species of all. So, in the name of human dignity, we also need to avoid this situation happening. The Earth has handed over itself with a history of billion years to us, so I think our performance at least should match what we have been given.